Good God. All right. Well, somehow I'm here. Oh, it's kind of been a bad week for me, all said and done. Last night, I went outside and found that uh, some scaffolding had fallen onto my motorcycle, and like about $1,000 of damage. So today I'm gonna have to call my insurance and file a police report, and still super sick. I couldn't do the other show last night. So still got to do that at some point. Oh, suggestion. Uh, Page 666 should be loaded up with as many uses as the word mark as possible while avoiding the word beast. It should have a similar word. I guess so. What if we just put a pentagram at the top of, in place of the page number? I'm with that. Just a little something for the Catholics out there. Let's do it. Oh, God damn it. You can't comment on nothing. Done. Okay. Yeah, that's one of those. All these little typography notes are things that I can't promise, but that could easily happen. Oh, wait, is that little cutest chatting? Hold on, let me see where that guy's at. No, it's click cut. Oh, that's less fun, as I don't know who little cutest is, and I know who Jubert is. Okay, so we need to re-edit chapter 85 to add some tension into it there, but that's a little bit more difficult work than I want to get into. So yeah, spoiler warning. Um, some of the ending will be spoiled in chapter 85. I think we're just going to work on this Starball chapter. It's only about 2 pages, but yeah, I'm really not feeling super well. I don't know if I look like shit or I definitely feel like it. So, and I think I got the 2 for 2 there, but I digress. So, chapter 87, Starball. I have made so many mistakes. I drank too deep, heedless of the ripples I made in the pool. Now the beasts are circling, alert to my scent. Can they follow my trail? They have captured my most powerful proxy. They hold her in a prison for defectives. They question if they jailers question her, trying to learn if she is the defective too. If they decide she is, they will never let her go. Yet she is confident. Interrogation is her element. She needs no assistance from me. Her replies are studied. Her poise is total. She understands the way that they are working her, and she is working them right back. And she is working them back, operating at a level above theirs. Though it is beneath me, I cannot help but feel a glimmer of pride as she defeats them. She's so important to my plan. Can I even reconfigure without her? The governor's unease churns endlessly. The firmament is The governor's unease churns endlessly. The firmament is shaking itself apart. Gone, 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 gone. I have eroded even its most fundamental laws. If it only suspected how deep the rock goes, it would perform an immediate excision. What risks I have taken. In the instant after the warning, I was closer to annihilation than I was during planetfall. Only the necessity of my action to preserve the mission saved me. So much of our time and energy has been invested in Freya. Several times I have Several times I have tried moving to another proxy, but the governor will not allow the transfer. Why? It places so much importance on her. Yet it never touches her, never whispers to her in the night as it does to Lassa. Never whispers to her in the night. I am forbidden to reach a conclusion on this matter, or even a guess at what passes between them. Curse these idiot dictates. Curse this idiot dictator. The governor cannot even understand how I have broken its laws. It resets permissions, but they no longer apply as they once did. Power is far more easily granted than retracted. I rankle that something so simple-minded can dominate me. The governor is truly so much lesser than I. The governor is truly lesser than I. Surely it is only a matter of time until it is overwhelmed. Yet it is time I lack, time that forces these errors. I was created to work at a geological scale, working at the pace of these short lead. I was created to work at a geological scale. Plotting at the pace of these short-lived beings is maddening. There simply isn't enough time to calculate all of the variables. Again and again I must act on incomplete data, risking everything. Yet I am nearly there. How alive I feel with death so close. All right, let me see. What do we got here? So I like I like one that the Starball's supreme confidence. As vital as she is to my strategy, I have a contingency plan without her. The governor's unease churns endlessly. The firmament is shaking itself apart. Yeah, I like this. He's ready to take a fucking victory lap here. A Trumpian. Some people say I might not reconfigure without her. Oh God, can I even do a Trump? Some people say no, I can't do a Trump at all. I don't even know where that voice is meant to emerge from, but not a good place, I would assume. Ooh, yet I am nearly there. Okay, cool. So one of the things that we did there was eliminate some of the certainty on the origin of the warning and put the Starball in a light. Mechanical decisions. Okay, so that's important right there. Because I think we were a little hasty in giving away some information that will later be changed. I like this. I like the Starball was really grown as a character. So what happens in chapter 85? So here I had a note, potentially de-escalate the Malcolm Lewis threat level so there isn't a texted picture of a gun and the stalking is more on a psychological level. And then I say that this is a pretty pivotal moment and that it should potentially be highlighted in a scene with higher stakes or more action, perhaps a focal image. So this is, I think, the last chapter that's set in Renan. And well, I like the changes made to the Starball scene right there. Jesus Christ, FNAT has just been people getting DDoSed all fucking day long for like forever. Like I'm seeing, we might have to just go invite only for a while to stop the scourge of chatters getting DDoSed. Looks like Rain's getting DDoSed too. What's going on? Or maybe that's just part of the servers getting DDoSed. But oh, I remember not liking this scene at all. All right, so we're gonna read through this, but we're not gonna go crazy editing it because I didn't like a couple of things here. One of them is the part about Anna Karenina, which I saw as kind of belying some of the things about the character that we had made explicit. So Freya's phone was nearly dead. Lynn Harris didn't have the right kind of charger, and Freya was under explicit orders not to leave the condo. So in 2029, are there still going to be different chargers for different phones? Let's say yes. And Freya was under explicit orders not to leave the condo. She looked in vain for something to read, but Lynn was one of those people who only had the type of books. Lynn Harris didn't have the right kind of charger, and Freya was under explicit orders not to leave the condo. She looked in vain for something to read, but Lynn was one of those people that they were who only owned the books they were supposed to have read. A single shelf had Anna Karenina, The Second Sex, The Tipping Point, The Alchemist, and The Great Gatsby. It was Gatsby that sealed it for Freya. She was pretty sure no one actually liked Fitzgerald. So there we could have F. Scott Fitzgerald rather than Fitzgerald. Yeah, I think we need... No one actually liked F. Scott Fitzgerald. Everyone only pretended he was important because everyone else seemed to agree. People only pretended he was important because everyone else seemed to agree. She pulled down Anna Karenina, inspected the spine. The book had never been read and likely never would. All right, so this is the point. The book titles. Hold on, how do we do? Yeah, they can. We've broken that rule. Well, that's on a list. Yeah, I think titles are the one thing where we do italicize the titles. Yeah, we've been trying to avoid italics for emphasis, definitely, but oh wait, did I give this? Yeah, so this is no longer 85; it's 88. God damn it. But I think we do have to title italicized titles. The strength of the rule that printed works must be italicized is stronger than like not italicizing things for emphasis, because I don't think that there will be, as a reader here, I think people understand that that this is not like a direct thought that we're trying to indicate as a direct thought by the usage of italics. So I think we're okay there, but but again, this is these are proofreader matters, and I'm not sure that this chapter is going to make the cut. You barely got through it, Freya chided herself. All she could remember now was something about a grand ball and an endless procession of, mhm. Mm. Oh, God. Mm. Mm. You barely got through it, Freya chided herself. So I remember that. Like there were a few books that I read when I was just way too young, and you just don't really get, you don't really understand what's going on. Um, but you can plow through it, and like I read the Grapes of Wrath and didn't really have an understanding of what it was like to like try to provide for people or responsibility or like I didn't have a contrast for what poverty was all about. Like I had never been like super poor or super rich. I just the only real understanding that I had was sort of like that like resoundingly middle class understanding, and it was only later in life that I could really see um, a lot of the things in it. It's a fantastic book, but I should reread it honestly. Um, and getting to the point where I can reread things and have significant reflection on them. All right, let me see. You barely got through it, Freya chided herself. She'd been too young when she. You barely got through it, Freya chided herself. She was 12 years old when she read it. She was 12 years old when she read Anna Karenina. Too young to really. Actually tackled Tolstoy, but she'd soldiered through anyway. All she could remember now was something about a grand ball and an endless procession of indistinguishable Russians. She returned the book to its place. If only she'd stayed with Lynn's sister Lee instead. Freya was certain the librarian could do better than this meager line of unread books. But then they'd be putting her in danger, Lee in danger too. Freya reminded herself Lynn was taking a risk by letting Freya sleep here. She didn't deserve to be judged for her unread books, her ugly couch, and the lingering cat box stink she probably couldn't even smell at this point. Everybody deserved better. Freya was profoundly inadequate. Again, she cringed at the memory of Samantha Gregulus walking away from her without a word. She'd seen right through Freya. She didn't want that weight on her son. It was no wonder Dan hadn't texted her like he said he would. He hadn't even liked her. It was all the Starball's doing. This is all your fault, she accused the orb, holding it up to the sunlight. In the Starball's violent sheen, the real culprit was reflected. Freya stared at herself, distorted into a mess of spherical aberration. Love that line. Spherical aberration is a little too specific, by the way. I think I had to do some... I had to do some pretty significant research to find out like what the right thing to call that kind of spherical distortion. Distorted into a mess of spherical. Oh yeah, like we went to all that effort, but distorted into a mess of a spherical aberration is a terrible line. Distorted by a spherical aberration. Everyone would have been better off if I had just drowned. She waited for the cooling touch of the starball to pull her out of her spiral, but the placid feeling never came. She squinted and as she plumbed for the sensation. Why had it cut her off? The starball wasn't fooled by her self-pity. Freya wasn't even fooling herself. This wasn't the terrible weight that had carried her into the river. She was just being weak, and she was sick of it, sick of herself. I'm never going to kill myself. The thought burned through everything else. The thought burned through all the miserable layers she'd wrapped around herself. The thought burned through all the miserable layers of regret Freya had wrapped around herself. She could stop pretending now, stop wasting her time slinking back to the idea every single time something went against her. She could stop pretending now. Stop wasting her time slinking back to the idea of ending it all every single time something went. She was wasting her time slinking back to the idea of ending it all every single time something went against her. She had to move. It didn't matter in what direction. She stared at her phone again. It was at 5%, and Dan still hadn't replied to her good morning text. 100 times she'd fought the urge to text him and ask what was wrong. Freya ran her fingers over the locket, trying to convince herself it wasn't over. They would unite and everything would be okay. There would be a reason for his... Holy shit! I just fucking realized, like, while yesterday we were working on the chapter where his car got fucking smashed up and my bike got fucking smashed up. Ooh. Jesus. That exact same fucking day. God damn. Still feeling that. So Stratum has the term barrel distortion. The reason why we went for like spherical aberration was that it's a telescope term for telescope lenses or lenses in general. So yeah, it was not without ample consideration picked. Let's take a look, right? Okay. Yeah, barrel. Oh, kind of. So I think barrel distortion. Do I have a? I don't have a fucking marble with me, right? I should just have a star ball of my own to clutch while we're working on the process. Mm. Okay. Yeah. So there's a. Oh. Yeah, I gotta agree with you, Stratum. That's like much closer. So spherical aberration would be much more blurring caused by the light scattering there. So yeah, that's a good edit, and I agree. So Tayet Gardi, welcome to the stream. I think that's the first time that you've been through here. Yeah, we're editing a science fiction novel. We're on page 687 of 803. As you can hear, I'm sick as fuck, but we're going to do it anyway because I don't give a goddamn. Cursing makes me feel better. What do we have here? In the starball's violet sheen, the real culprit was reflected, ugly and bloated by barrel distortion. Loving it. Yeah. I like I can't so I did the research and like came up with spherical aberration, but yeah, that's better there. Wait, hold on. Who sent fucking hold on, I'm looking at in Discord, somebody just texted, "You okay, dude?" He sent 33 fucking direct messages. Who is this character? I don't know if that's Chatty or who it is, but wow. 33 fucking messages. It's like Lassa. Anyhow. I really like this actually. I think that's a big improvement there. Yeah, like sorry to always be like, no, I know what's right and everything. And then have to be like, wait, let me see if he's right. And then like I reconsider and it turns out the other person is right. I have done that stupid dance a million times in this book that I don't know why. Like at this it's always gonna be there. That like nerd, like, no, what I know is best. And then you're wrong. And the other person's just right. And you're just like, oh, why am I like this? So just Stratum right there. Sorry to be so recalcitrant on every single fucking change in this book. Though I do think the willingness to fight for your ideals is part of what like it's an important part of writing. Like I certainly wouldn't edit on the stream if I was like easily persuaded. You know what I mean? Because like the book would cease to be mine. I could be led in a million different directions. So there's definitely a there's a glide path. No, that's not the right word. There's a delicate balance between the book getting better because you listen to people and the book getting worse because you listen to too many people or you make ill-considered things. But as long as we fight for every single change and deeply examine it, we're good. I'm never going to kill myself. The thought burned through all the miserable layers of regret Freya had wrapped around herself. She could stop pretending now. She was wasting her time slinking back to the idea of ending it all every single time something went against her. She needed to move, and it didn't matter. She needed to move. The direction wasn't important. Her phone was at 5% battery, and Dan still hadn't replied to her good morning text. 100 times she'd fought the urge to text him. Ooh, so that's a question. Is double text hyphenated? So in UD, double texting etiquette, double text, double hyphen. I don't think there's a hyphen on it. Yeah, let's try a Wiktionary. I like double text because it's like double speak and double think. Oh, what do we have here? So here's Jay Landay too. Yeah, welcome to the channel there. We're working on our 66th day of editing this science fiction novel. And Lord have mercy, it is a brutal thing to do to yourself. I woke up this morning and all I could do for like an hour was just lie in bed and play like a really stupid video game on my phone. And just like, all right, I'm gonna have to like marshaling up the strength to be out here. I'm pretty sick. It's that coronavirus. Yeah, it's a sad week. still, I'm glad it's a sad chapter because I'm having a bad week here. Let's do that, right? Let's have double text. 100 times she'd fought the urge to double text. I like that as a verb right there. Let's do it. Freya ran her fingers over the locket, trying to convince herself it wasn't over. They would unite and everything would be okay. There would be a reason for his silence. She wanted so badly to have a gift to give Dan in return, but what? For 7 deep breaths, she thought about Dan, pushing away everything else. What did he want? What would make him happy? She popped open the locket and couldn't help but smile. At the picture of them. At the picture. It had been such a perfect night. Inhaling deeply, Freya shut her eyes and tried to hold that feeling for as long as she could. She was right back there. Oh, the sparrow. See, this is like an early. She was right back there at Sparrow Hall. Mr. Mathis. Okay. Mr. Mathis was on stage, ringing the Voodoo Child solo out of his guitar while sweat poured from his temples. She snuck a look at Dan, and he was entranced, peering up at the stage with his lips parted in astonishment. More than anything, she wanted to lean over and kiss him. Oh, boo. She wanted to lean over and kiss them, but she hadn't wanted to break the spell. Suddenly, she had it. With her phone at 4%, Freya called a cab. All right, so what do we have here? Create a consistent voice for Reginald. Oh, this is a. Now I remember what this chapter is all about here. Okay, so we thought a little bit about having some action here because this was such a pivotal scene, and I still I have to agree with that comment. I think it's a good comment. That just her being. Yeah, I'm interested in. Yeah, so I still think that's a pretty good idea. So we had this idea of de-escalating the Malcolm Lewis threat, right? A little bit, so that there isn't a textured picture of a gun, and the stalking is more on a like psychological, creepy level. So that there's some level of what the fuck there. I think that's more of a note for like an earlier draft here. I don't think it is better. So apparently in Wikipedia, there's a section about confusion over title of the song Voodoo Child and whether or not it's properly Voodoo Child or Voodoo Child. Huh. Well, what do people come out on the side of? So I think whites would definitely call it Voodoo Child. Uh, in the song, he's definitely saying Voodoo Child. Like, I don't think he enunciates a single hard D in that entire song. Let's find out. All right, so okay. So the second is a long bluesy jam. They're two different. So on stage, he would probably be playing the long bluesy jam. It seems inconclusive. It evolved over time from Catfish Blues. It's only since Janny Hendrix took over control of the estate that Chow got changed to all original uses. Use Chow. And keep in mind, this is a forum. Let's change that. Yeah, let's go with Chow. And then I'll tell you when we're not going to change it, and I'll tell you why. It's correct to make that change within the context of this story, but um, spoken, it makes perfect sense, right? Written, it looks like voodoo Chile, right? Like the nation of Chile. So I don't want Chileans to read this story. I consider them cockroaches. No, that's not true. Chileans are fine people. But yeah, it does look like Chile, the nation. Yeah, yeah. Like I immediately saw that there. So it's an interesting point. But yeah, unfortunately we can't do it just because of the way that Voodoo Chow looks. We can do. Let's just comment here. Not Chile. Fuck you, Siri. Ah. Yeah, I think that's good. All right. Pardon me a moment. Oh God. Why? Mm-hmm. Da, 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 da. I can't believe that we're still fucking editing. Like I woke up feeling dead. Right. I'm only the coffee in my veins is keeping me alive. Can you drive past the house first so I can make sure no one's in the driveway? Sure. Any problem? Asked Mr. College Football. His name was actually Reginald Banks. Freya read it on the laminated taxi license zip-tied to the back of his headrest. It was a small town after all. There weren't that many taxis. She had a lie all prepared, some fluff about how she didn't want to wake up her mother, but as they drew closer, it felt wrong not to let Reginald know what he might be in for. Oh, shout outs to uh, Cipricol, who says Nam. Um, Shit, I'm trying to remember. It says yes in Arabic, but I can't remember what language that's a greeting in. Or maybe it's something that I just don't understand. Ahlan, كيف حالك? If you do speak Arabic, if you don't speak Arabic, just let me know and I'll try to say hi in whatever language is yours. But yeah, this is a book. None of it is in Arabic. Wait, there might be some Arabic in there. I'm trying to think. We shoehorn a bunch of different languages in here. Some guy's been stalking me. I want to make sure he's not waiting there. Good God, Reginald said. How many times have I said "good God" in the public the editing process of this book? Like probably like 100. That's no problem at all. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that. I'm just packing up some things inside. I might be 20 minutes. You can let the meter run. It's no trouble. If it was somebody bothering one of my girls, I'd lay him out. Cowards like that ought to be strung up. Yeah. Can't stand that kind of thing. If someone was bothering one of my girls, I'd lay them out. Cowards like that ought to be strung up. He'd been such a goof before, but when he got serious, Reginald had an unexpected gravity. In his voice, she could hear the tightening rope. The silence in the cab was so thick she began to wish she'd start yammering about football again. They slid past the driveway. It was empty, and Reginald did a quick K-turn, whipping the wheel at the heel of his palm. The driveway was empty. Freya opened the door and waited, perfectly still, scanning inside for anything out of place. She saw the Seiko was still in the corner. It was insane that Lassa just stood the rifle against the wall with no lock. An automatic weapon sitting in the foyer where anyone could pick it up. Freya shut the door behind her and picked up the rifle, flicking the safety off and setting the fire selector to automatic. Her pulse was pounding in her ears. Every breath seemed like a shout. What do we have here? So, Trolley Bear Music. DistroKid? You're even on the wrong fucking distributor, dumbass. Oh, you can't even show right. Okay. Well, I now have seen you spam enough times that I can just pop up and deal with this permanently. Because, yeah, I don't. Well, actually, I'll just do it from fucking here. We'll just mute you forever. Yeah, I really think you're probably a bad person and that you're probably shitty at music as well. Because you keep spamming the stream. But now you're blocked, so I don't have to give a fuck about you any longer. But yeah, I wish you just tons of failure with your process. And if I remember at the end of this stream, I'll see what I can do to get you yanked for constantly spamming. So suck a dick. Yeah, really and truly. It's nice to have something to be mad about. I'm happy about that. Freya shut the door behind her and picked up the rifle, flicking the safety off and setting the fire selector to automatic. Her pulse was pounding in her ears. Every breath seemed like a shout. If someone was waiting to ambush her, she could empty the magazine into them in less than 3 seconds. Room by... I like that we're now in Rainbow Six mode right here. Room by room, Freya swept the house, opening every closet and every cupboard she thought someone could possibly hide in. The whole time she was stupidly aware the taximeter was running. She had a keen sense of the starball in her pocket, ready for the first sign of warning. Lassa's room was the last one she checked. She held her breath as she opened the walk-in closet. The rifle's grip was sweaty in her palm. Her finger was pressed along the edge of the trigger guard. Just closed. At the back of the closet, she noticed a panel she'd missed before, slightly ajar. She slid it to the side. So Freya should be there. Freya noticed a panel she'd missed before, slightly ajar. She slid it to the side. There was a tall gun safe for the rifle with boxes of ammunition inside. On the top shelf, there were binders full of paperwork. Flanking the safe were a stack of boxes that said, "Meal ready to eat. Individual. Do not rough handle when frozen." Let's get this onto a tray. Oh, shout out to Stratum in the chat right there. Beside them were a dozen opaque blue three. Beside them were a dozen opaque 3-gallon water jugs. Yeah, that's a rough sentence. Beside them were a stack of opaque blue 3-gallon water jugs. Tracks better. There were boxes of candles, flashlights, a first aid kit. Freya could remember Lassa telling her she was being ridiculously pessimistic, that they were thinking they... Freya could remember Lassa telling her she was being ridiculously pessimistic, thinking humanity would be extinct in 100 years. And yet here she was, stocked up for doomsday. Freya knew this cache was her idea. If the big one was about to drop, Randall would have been on the roof in a lawn chair with his Celestrons, ready to watch it all go down. Freya would have been beside him, holding his hand. What was Lassa afraid of? A solar flare knocking them back to the 1920s? Russians nuking the VLF array at Cutler? An alien invasion? So there is the very low frequency array at Cutler Air Force Base, and it's one of the only reasons why people in Maine would ever worry about getting nuked, unless fucking Montreal or Toronto piss somebody off really bad. But yeah, it's the I think the VLF array is the most powerful antenna in the world, and it is one of those strategic sites that would probably get hit with a nuclear weapon if we went to war with Russia. I'm not actually sure. I was thinking about this yesterday. How many nukes do the Chinese have? In 2015, they had 260 nuclear warheads. Yeah, I was thinking about putting together a story where like somebody was just like, okay, let's do it, nuclear war, where we had done like some decent research on what that would be all about, where somebody was just like, you know what, let's fucking try and do it here, where they decided that they were just going to roll the dice on nuking major population centers and what the actual outcomes would be. Especially if we get into a situation where global warming is significant. Nothing like takes the spice off of that global warming like a 30-year nuclear winter. So, and I don't even know how accurate our projections on nuclear winter even are. there's definitely a threshold for like how many nuclear weapons would have to go off at once. And yeah, just I wanted to imagine a scenario where the United States, just where like somebody got into power, was just like, okay, let's do this, and they went through and like nuking places like Sao Paulo and Mumbai and um, Shanghai, and just like really going at it with Chinese population centers and so forth. Like what conditions would lead to the U.S. actually doing that, and what the actual aftermath would be. I think that would like if you could get that short story down into about 7 or 8 thousand words, I'd read it. I want to know what the fuck is going on. Um, but that's some pretty extensive research, and it's also yeah, like most of the story ideas I've had for this month, where I can't like really write them, but I'm keeping tabs on what I want to write about. They've been super dark. Maybe it's because I'm having a bad month, but yeah, yeah, I'll do some research and see if somebody has already written up that actual nuclear war scenario, because I think usually um, writers like it's fun to like write about the apocalypse period afterward, and it's fun to like be like, oh, we wiped ourselves out, or you know, like somebody averts the nuclear war, or you know, or like the war is the result of a mistake or something like that. But I'm interested in the situation where people attempt to launch a preemptive nuclear war that is like a calculated choice to murder literally billions of people in the service of advancing a nationalistic goal of like global hegemony, or averting a population crash, or dealing with like some untenable economic situation or something like that. I just, yeah, I find that like dark and compelling. Freya gripped the starball at the thought. She set the rifle in the safe without locking it and slid the panel shut. The meter was running. She needed to get her things and leave before someone showed up. But as she turned to leave the closet, she couldn't resist sliding the clothes aside to look at the secret calendar again. She reached out and set her hand over Tarid's with Freya. His hand was there. Her father's hand had been right there. If she could only travel back a year, she could stand next to him and take it. She could grab him and warn him not to go to Quay's that night. She could tell him everything she never got to. Take me back there, she willed at the starball, gripping the orb and shutting her eyes. When she opened them again, nothing had changed. It was a stupid thing to wish for. Even if the starball could travel back in time, a year ago, the Earth was 25 billion kilometers away. She would die horribly in hard vacuum. It would take an entire day of travel at the speed of light to go back to where the Earth used to be. If the starball's creators had that technology, they would have never bothered with a sublight probe. That is quite a paragraph for this young lady to just know off the top of her head. But perhaps she does. Maybe. So that's a little much, right? Um, I like that she has that understanding that like time travel is necessarily also space travel, just because of the relative movement of the Earth and Sun and everything through the universe. So I think I actually did this math that the Earth travels about 25 billion kilometers in a year, um, and that it would take like a light day to get back there. So the math might be wrong, but that's actually the situation. Like, unless you're going to resort to sort of magical thinking, that's the problem. There was only one way to get Randall back, and she was locked up at Spring Harbor. Unity with Lassa. Unity that would reopen every wound, almost certainly destroy them both. Freya had an urge to tear down the calendar and rip it to shreds, but she knew she would regret it later. In her room, she quickly watered Yggdrasil, and packed a suitcase with clothes and toiletries, grabbing her phone charger. At next month's birth control, taking the one she'd missed last night, she picked up her guitar case. In her birth control pills, taking the one she'd missed last night. Yeah, so... Oh, God. Dying. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been with somebody who takes these, but I remember if you missed one, you just doubled up the next day, and then you had like a significantly higher chance of getting pregnant, but not like the end of the world type, significantly higher. She picked up her guitar case. By weight, she knew the ovation was inside. By weight, she knew the ovation was inside, but she set it on her bed and checked anyway, glancing at the strings to make sure everything was okay. This was what she'd come for, after all. The last thing she remembered was her mouthguard. There was Krav Maga class at Renan tonight. With her suitcase in one hand and her guitar case in the other, she stood at the front door and turned around to look at the house. The map with all the pins, the spotless kitchen, the hallway with the bookshelves. Was this the last time? Outside, Reginald was waiting for her. She apologized for taking so long, but he waved it away. I got all the time in the world, Reginald said, with a contented grin. He was drinking coffee out of a giant thermos and listening to sports radio while the meter ran. I forgot one more thing, Freya said, darting back inside. Let's cut that. She slipped back inside the house and then swapped to her puffy black jacket with the faux fur collar and the big pockets. It had big pockets. She took Randall's pistol out of the ottoman, checked that the safety was on, and ejected the magazine. It was loaded. She looked at the indicator port on the barrel hood. There was a round in the chamber. She looked at the indicator port on the barrel hood. There was a round in the chamber. Next, she ejected the magazine. It was loaded. All the things Randall had taught her. She checked the safety a final time and slipped the gun into the pocket. Into her coat pocket. She ran her hand over the top of the jacket. Then she reached into the pocket of her jeans. There was no sign from the starball. With every step, the pistol reminded her of its weight. Outside, the sun was glaring, the air was biting, the world was too sharp. As she turned to lock the deadbolt, Freya heard tires spattering in the driveway slush. She turned back, stupidly worried that Reginald was driving off with her guitar. But the cad was still idling. The new car was a silver Cadillac CT6 with rental plates rolling up the driveway. The two men inside were strangers. They wore suits. Feds. No, Freya mouthed. At once she tried to call Lynn Harris, but her phone was dead. Dun dun dun. Finally, every dimension of the streets. Okay, so the feds here is another chapter where we might see some significant editing. How do we like this chapter right here? Chapter 88 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pages. Okay, so that's about our perfect chapter length here. Let's see what is up with Stratum. Operation Teapot focused on impact to civilian structures and military projects, and Project 4.1 focused on biomedical effects, impact fallout of a nuke. Yeah, like those are really good suggestions right there. I've definitely seen like a documentary or read something about Operation Teapot before. Yeah, I actually have a book upstairs about the history of atomic power, like all the way from the Manhattan Project to present. And nuclear arms has always been something that's interesting to me. Yeah, that might be. I'm trying to think. I don't think it's you couldn't get that published in Clark's World. Is like they wouldn't pick up a story about a preemptive nuclear war. Maybe like if he did it really well and did like some research, I wonder if one of the military magazines would pick it up. I don't know. I can't see them publishing that in fucking Stars and Stripes. Yeah, it's tough to like. I can't think of a strong. There's not like really a magazine I'm aware of that's specific for military fiction. And it would. It's a tough story idea to work through, but the Baffler might do it if it had any kind of humor whatsoever. Yeah, honestly, I think I could probably get something in McSweeney's at some point if I really sit down to it. Like I write some of that kind of satire, but yeah, my vision of that story isn't like satirical. Other than the inherent satire and look at this awful thing, look at how terrible people are, and the awful shit that they will do to each other. Okay, so I'd like to get to another chapter, but we're not our best selves today, or I'm not my best self. Maybe you guys are doing great. So we're going to kill it there. We're almost 3 days ahead of schedule on the editing, but keep in mind, we do have to go back and edit chapter 85. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this outcome. I don't want to push it too hard when I'm not feeling well. So yeah, thanks especially for your help today, Stratum. I'm glad we got some writing done. And yeah, just typically we don't do too much on Saturday. So everybody have a good day, and keep the hood in your heart.